Hey, happy Saturday, y'all. How y'all
Hello.
doing?
Yeah. How
Oh,
you doing,
oh,
FOMO?
doing pretty good. How are you guys?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, this is we're getting closer. And, I can't believe how quickly all the sales are happening. I just keep on
Mhm.
thinking about last year, although it was a little earlier last year. Doesn't it feel like it's super early this year?
Um, I
Or
don't
is it
know.
just my imagination?
I don't know. I think I started paying attention like at the end of September to October anyway, so it's
Right.
about that period.
All right. So I don't know if there's any new prices, but I'll just throw that up there for those of you who are looking around, whatever. and and we'll take all your questions today. But I did want to have you on today, Classy, because I think we're talking about just generally speaking, gaming features, and specifically what's happening with Sony. A bit of, and we know this is early, right? This is their first VRR, and if you guys haven't heard, where have you been? But about the last this month or so, right, October, Sony
Mhm.
did release their first VRR update for the X900H. We expect the X90J to come out closer to the end of the year, maybe after the year, depends. But for sure, the X900H is out. But why don't you tell me, Classy, what are your thoughts of this first early firmware VRR from X900H?
My biggest problem with it is the way that they implemented it. It's not going to be usable at 120 hertz, even on the XR processor TVs, because you know how on the HDMI port you have to go set it from standard to enhanced Dolby Vision. You got to pick,
Correct.
do you want Dolby, do you want 120 hertz? That's what they did. They added a fourth option on those two ports. So if you want VRR, then you're giving up 120 hertz and Dolby Vision. You got to pick the one that you want.
So let's get this straight. If you want Dolby Vision gaming in game mode, we're not talking the high latency normal. In game mode, Dolby Vision, your 4K 60 is the best you can do. Is that with or without VRR?
Well, they don't have game mode for Dolby Vision.
Okay.
So let's
So
just if you want to have a game in VRR, then go watch something in Dolby Vision. You have to go in the settings and make that change every time.
so that's high latency Dolby Vision with VRR.
Yep.
So
Uh,
so it's VRR in a non-game mode.
yeah, well, there's no VRR unless you specifically set that. So it's like you have Dolby, you have 120 hertz, or you have VRR. Take your pick. And the
Dolby
Dolby has
120 or
no game
VRR.
mode.
Okay, so let's make it easy. Which would you choose? Because I know you've been playing with all of them.
Yeah.
Which one ends up being the game mode for you?
The enhanced regular 120 hertz mode.
Yeah. Did VR, I mean, does VRR bring anything to the table in its
Uh,
best, whatever?
it lowers brightness. It increases input lag. It
Oh,
eliminates local dimming. So no.
man. Now, okay. Again, this is early. Let's talk about the possibilities of the future. Do you think this can be fixed? I mean, are you hearing, is the issue just software? It just takes time to work through the software? Or is now the rumor really, well, maybe they're hardware limited? What are you hearing from your buddies out in the gaming world?
I'm just I think they can probably fix the maybe the local dimming, the brightness, maybe the input lag. But the problem is you're still going to be stuck at 60 hertz. So I would still just pick the 120 hertz mode and just ignore that it even has VRR.
That makes sense. Well, so let's take Sony out as a gaming TV, but I think this kind of goes to our theme that we have today, which is, does it really matter? Because I think you still like the Sony regardless of its VRR issue, right? I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about the gaming performance, but ultimately you have it in normal 4K 120. So is it enough that a TV can do 4K 120 and forget the rest?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think the X90J and the X95J are great gaming TVs. Just put them in enhanced, play at 120.
What about the non-Sonys? So we have several TVs that have 4K 120 this year.
Mhm.
We have the TCLs, we have the Hisenses, we have all the OLEDs, LGs. Is there a difference between the different 4K 120 implementations out there as far as image quality? Is there one that you prefer over the rest?
Uh, Pretty much, if gaming is even remotely a concern, I would just say get LG.
LG OLED
Yeah,
specifically, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And if if you don't want OLED, or if that's too much, Samsung has pretty good offerings as well.
Okay. It, you know, I was just thinking about it though. It appears that most of the flagship TVs this year, all the brands, TCL, Hisense, Sony, Samsung, LG, they do offer 4K 120. It's the VRR implementation that is varying between all the TVs, right? And Samsung is number two to LG in terms of its VR implementation. But everybody else just stick with 4K 120 and you probably get the best image and
Mhm.
gaming at the same time. Is that fair to say?
So with the Hisense, I don't think that they actually do 4K. I think they cut the resolution in half, like the X900H. I don't know. Still need to verify it, but that's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
The TCL, I still have to open the box and check it. It seems that it's doing 4K 120, but it doesn't do 444. So if being a monitor matters at all, that eliminates that. It just there's too many corners cut with the MediaTek TVs.
So here's something that Mustafa is saying that we all pretty much this kind of concludes all the brands promised HDMI 2.1, none of them pulled it off like LG. And I have to agree. Also, I'd say maybe this year Samsung kind of pulled it off a little bit better than the rest as well. Not as good as LG, but it comes down to MediaTek chip. Everybody else that's not LG or Samsung, they have that MediaTek chip. The really big question for those who are either considering upgrading next year or the year after is sooner or later, MediaTek's going to solve this. The question is, will they release an updated chip next year? And who knows, right? I mean, it, it is so unpredictable because these TV companies are not gaming monitor companies. And the irony is, Gigabyte released their OLED gaming monitor that's based on the LG OLED. Turns out the LG OLED is not only a better gaming monitor, it's less expensive. And so you have to kind of look at it just because a brand is a gaming brand like Gigabyte, right? Their
Mhm.
first OLED attempt is no better. Actually,
Yeah.
is worse than the LG OLED. So
Mhm.
at this point, we should just consider if you are anywhere within the vicinity of a serious gamer or enthusiast, just stick with an LG OLED and decide between the C1 and the G1. And that's it. Everything else, you know what? You have no one to blame but yourself. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like if you're early on a budget, but you still want to have good gaming performance, that's where like the Samsung Q70A was really good. Um, and I think that's down to like 850 now for the
Hmm.
55 inch, so something like that. And I
Yeah,
think I see that just continuing to drop more. So that would
I
be like my budget go-to gaming TV.
Now, what are your thoughts of what? Let me get this question real quick. What are your thoughts about LG is a jack of all trades, but master of none? Because I'm thinking it actually, the OLED, we're not talking about the QNED. Let's leave that for later.
Mm.
I think their OLED is actually pretty good considering the LG G1, other than not having that heat sink, it is easily comparable, if not better than the A80J in some instances. We're talking image quality, right? Would you agree, or do you think the G1 is behind enough the A80J that it's not a master of something?
Well, I think they're the master of gaming TVs.
Mm,
Um,
okay,
so
that's
they
good.
have
That's a good
that,
point.
and then I think
Yep.
for their just general image quality, it's like a fraction of a point behind, and that's mostly with older or lower quality content. As soon as you give it something good quality, 4K, if it's a UHD disc, something like that,
Hmm.
it's almost indistinguishable with the Sony. The Sony's just like a tiny bit more from reality creation, but it,
And I
it's
think the
mostly the
biggest,
lower quality stuff.
I forget to remind everyone, out of the box, the A80J looks pretty good, color accuracy, all that stuff. But the G1, if it's calibrated, both calibrated, correct. The G1, if it's not calibrated, your results may vary, right? There's an inconsistency in their color accuracy out of the box. Some look great, some may need a little bit of that fine tuning. So ultimately, if you calibrate the G1 for sure, it'll be indistinguishable from the A80J. So just keep that in mind as well. It may not be perfect out of the box as far as color accuracy. It'll be bright, but not as accurate as the A80J more often than not. And here's a great question I wanted to pull out real quick because it has to do with 4K 120 mode.
Mhm.
Let's say Sony 4K 120. Do you see screen tearing when gaming or only in certain circumstances?
Yeah. So, all right. So with screen tearing, some people are more susceptible to that than others. So, like most of the time, tearing is at the top of the screen, and you're focused in the middle. Some people it drives them crazy. Others don't see it at all. Um, when you're playing at 120, the consoles have a really hard time holding 120, so they're dropping down to 190, 80, whatever. That's what's going to cause screen tearing is when you have these massive dips in frame rate. But it's more than that. It's also the feel. Like you feel the change in the input latency as the frame rate drops. You feel the stutters. So that's where VRR is helpful. And especially you play like Sea of Thieves is kind of the go-to because it's the worst case. You load up that DLC and the screen tearing is, I mean, anyone will see it. But we're going to have more like that as the generation goes on and they try to push the machines more. And then the frame rates can't hold up. We see it every generation. The last couple of years, they're trying to really push the consoles really hard. And then you have all these frame rate drops. That's where you see the stutters, the screen tearing, things like that. So VRR will be more important in the next couple of years. But in the meantime, you know, you can, like with the Xbox, my preferred way is you can force the Xbox to 120 hertz, but then have the game in its 60 FPS graphics mode. And then the Xbox is just duplicating the frames, and then it's hardly ever drops. So you're getting lower input lag with the better image quality.
And this is a great way to conclude, give us a conclusion right now. At this point, after everyone's been reviewing the TVs, but in the context of gaming, the reality is the best TV for gaming and image quality, if you can afford it, it really is the LG OLED
Yep.
G1. I mean,
Yep.
that's it. You know, nothing is even close if you also take into consideration gaming. But even if you took out gaming, the G1 is an excellent TV that is, for many people, indistinguishable from the A80J. So that's, but it is more expensive than the A80J. So if you go to the C1, gaming is definitely better than the A80J, but many will consider the A80J a touch better, especially in the 77-inch size. I think at the 65-inch size, C1 A80J image quality is close. Out of the box, A80J will be a bit more color accurate. But other than that, if gaming is somewhat important and you want image quality, you just get a LG OLED you could afford, either the C1 or the G1. And I think that kind of concludes most people that that's it. And I don't see any disagreement from anyone that the OLED C1 or G1 is the excellent image quality and gaming features that you need. And it's somewhat future proof, in my opinion, because I cannot see additional features coming out in gaming like 144 hertz really from OLED. Not this year, I don't think. So we should be okay. Hey, Cyber GT, thank you as always for the super chat. Problem with LG TV for gaming. Uh-oh. There's no AV ports for retro gaming, and that sucks. Only way to do it is running it through an AV amp. You're right, Cyber GT. Come on, you can't have everything. There's got to be someone that finds a way to say there's something missing, but I will take that compromise. But you're right, nothing
And
is perfect.
there are plenty of HDMI mods for the classic systems.
Yes, yeah. You could always convert it to HDMI.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But
Mm.
there's we all are critics of our own TVs, and we all have use cases. We're like, oh, if only it had this or that. So, hey, Classy and FOMO, what about the PS5's new features that are only on Sony TVs? Isn't this something along the lines of PS5 and Sony trying to get HDR tone mapping similar to HGIG, something like that? What's your
It's
impression
more
of that?
of instead of you having to count your clicks and set up your PlayStation yourself, it'll just do it based on it'll read the EDID of the TV, and then it'll say this is a A90J or whatever, and then it'll set the parameters for the HDR based on that. My problem with it is there's panel variance, and so if you're an average person, you're not getting your TV calibrated, fine, it's just going to save you the step of doing it yourself. But if it were me, and I'm like going in the service menu, increasing my brightness, and I can measure it and know exactly how bright it is, then I have to do it manually anyway. So it's yeah.
That makes sense. Here's a good question. Super Go Getter. How good is the Samsung Q98 4K 120 mode? So, if you put it in game mode, remember Samsung's priority is low latency. So, they will reduce the full array local dimming processing to get you that low latency if you're willing to give up a little bit of the low latency. and get more image quality by activating the full rate local dimming rate, but it doesn't mean 4K 120 will work now. So you have to choose. With Samsung, they really want you to have great frame rates, like perfect latency, all that stuff. But it's not going to be as good as some TVs with higher latency in 4K 120. So that's been my experience. Have you heard anything else from Samsung that would, or can the image quality in 4K 120 be deeper?
Um, I don't know, my problem with it was like in dark scenes in games, you just notice that the local dimming's not working as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And then in like really bright highlights, sometimes they would get too bright and then darken, and then, like it was trying to figure out how bright it was supposed to be. Um, but other than that, the Samsungs were great for gaming. So
I think so. And remember, it's in context. If you're not getting the LG OLED, well, compared
mhm.
to the competition, the 4K 120 in Samsung really is as good as it gets, I think. I think it would be my preference because I consider them the number 2 gaming TV overall this year anyway. So it's a great choice if you're not considering OLED. The A90J is overrated unless you're going to always use the TV in vivid mode. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the A90J is overrated?
uh, Depends on who you talk to. I think generally most people knows how good it is. But I think some people maybe overrate it, some people underrate it. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of a weird term for any TV.
Well, this is what we always say is if you can't afford the A90J, you're
Mhm,
not missing out that much by saving a few $1,000s and getting
mhm,
either A80J at 77 inches, right? Because the A90J is smaller. It's a little bit brighter. It's in those scenes where you have high average picture level and there's
mhm.
an HDR window somewhere that's also bright. Then the A90J does that, but there's not a lot of content that will show that off. I think in most content like Netflix or whatever, that performance from the A90J, you're not going to take advantage of it. So if you watch a lot of movies like Pan and those type of movies, yeah, the A90J is going to serve, but it may not. And if you have the money to burn, why not, right?
Mhm.
Okay, let's see here. And the important thing is there are so many options this year where if you can't afford one TV, going down, it's not bad at all. This year, I looked at the prices, and across the board, between 2,000 and 1,000, there is a TV you can afford that's actually pretty good. It's a lot closer this year than it's ever been, I believe, especially if you're looking at the non-OLEDs. The TCL 6 series and the U7 is pretty much neck and neck with Sony's and Samsung's that are several $100s more. We're talking non-OLEDs, right? And the OLEDs, you just have Sony and LG. I don't think Vizio still selling OLEDs? Maybe.
I think it's still for sale. It might just be what's left, but I don't know if they're still making them.
Super Go Get It. Did I mispronounce it?
It's Gogeta. Yeah.
Gogeta.
Mhm.
Is that a
Yeah.
reference to a character I'm not familiar with?
Yeah, it's in Dragon Ball.
See, this is what happens, right?
Mhm.
Hey, Cyber, thanks for the follow-up. I brought PS5 and first game I got from the PS Store was Bubble Bobble. I say bring back the Atari 2600 with Pong or Sinclair Spectrum 48K with Manic Miner. Now we're talking real retro. Like
Mhm.
there are so many retro games that I played when I was a kid on the Atari 2600. Mission Command was the one that came with the Atari, and I just played that all day. I was just so happy just playing that. Did you ever play Mission Command?
Um, Probably not on an actual Atari, but like later on, like one of
Later on.
the discs that they have like a bunch of older stuff on, something like that.
Hey KG, are you out and about? What are you doing, man? Let us know. And yeah, join us if you want to, because it's a slow weekend, and I think we're just wrapping up
Mhm.
the early sales. I'm still waiting. Now we're so used to the prices, right? What are we waiting for? We're waiting
Mhm.
for things to drop further. So this is
Uh,
what I'm predicting as the next sale, and you tell me what you're thinking, right? So I think the X90J will continue to drop, and I'm not talking about the 55 inch. I think the 65 inch will go under 1,000 because didn't the X900H go under 1,000 last year by Black Friday?
998 or something like that.
Right,
Yeah.
998, and the
Mhm.
55-inch was 950. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? It's gonna happen again. So
Probably.
so I think if you guys have your heart on the X90J, wait till Black at this point, just wait until Black Friday because you will save about $200. The 6 Series, I don't know if it will go any lower. I think this is about as low as it goes. The A80J and the C1, there may be room for more discounts. What do you think about the 65-inch A80J and C1? Is there room to go further down?
The C1, yes. Like I've been looking at my distributor list, and the pricing has gone down, especially on the bigger, like the 83 C1 dropped like $500.
Oh,
So there's
so
plenty of room for that to come down.
okay, so there's plenty of room to see one, and
Mhm.
it feels like this year Sony
I think
wants to
Sony's already
stay.
tapped out.
You
Yeah.
think they're tapped out? Okay, so they can't keep up. So, all right, guys, if you're waiting for the C1, we know it's around 18 to 1900 now. You might as well wait till Black Friday. You waited this far. It's only another month, right? About
Mhm.
exactly a month from now. Wait, and the C1 might go down another 100 or
Mhm.
two. Maybe they'll
Mhm.
combine it with some other
Well,
deal. But let's talk about the 77-inch.
the other thing is you can buy now though and get it price matched at Best Buy.
That is true. Hey, you could buy it
Mhm.
now. That's right.
Mhm.
If you're afraid of inventory shortages, which is very likely this year, unlike years before, get it now. Hold on to it. You have what? Through the end of the year into next year, through the holidays to get a price match from anyone else. So if you plan to buy at Best Buy anyway, go for it. The price match guarantee adjustment after you buy it for the rest of the year, I think is actually pretty amazing. I mean, that's a no-brainer for me.
Mhm.
Hey, Shrub Shark, thanks for the super chat. Q&A, 77-inch versus 85-inch. Is the 85-inch have higher panel problems than? So I'm assuming you mean 75-inch. So the answer is both 75 and 85. Generally speaking, the larger displays have issues, but the 85-inch may have possibly more. I don't know the exact numbers. I just know generally speaking, and it's not just Samsung, so let's not beat up Samsung. The larger panels generally have higher DSC issues. Sony appears to have less based on what we're seeing out there anecdotally. So if you have your heart on the QN90A, just keep that in mind. If you get a Best Buy, make sure you look and go through the test. And just because it's slightly dirty with slight vertical banding, it doesn't mean that you can switch it out on warranty. So if you're going to swap it during your return period. So keep an eye on what that return period is. That way you don't have to explain yourself. "Oh, I don't like it. I just want to swap it for another one." Because the reality is it's luck of the draw still, especially this year across all the brands. It doesn't matter what price you pay at the 85-inch size. It's really the same LCD manufacturer. Samsung is not making their own LCDs at the 85-inch size. It's either AUO or TCL or someone, right? So they're all buying from the same source. LG is the only one buying from itself, but that's why it's an IPS panel. So yeah,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
can't say the 85 is worse than 77. There's To me, they're over 65. You're at risk.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for a while that I think it doesn't matter the brand, the size, the model. DSE is a lottery on any TV you buy, and I think that's the biggest thing that needs to be improved in the next few years.
Hmm.
But,
Agreed.
and
And
then I just wanted to touch. Preston had said he returned his A80J because the Xbox wasn't with the eARC wasn't going through or was having dropouts.
mhm.
Um, and yeah, that's still a thing, but it's when using Dolby or DTS, and it's set at 120 hertz. So if you either drop it to 60, you should be okay, or if you set it to PCM, then you'll be okay.
Actually, let's go into that because is this content or gaming? So you're using the Xbox for content streaming that this is happening? People getting dropouts from the Xbox
If the
and the
Xbox
Sony?
is set to 120 hertz, then it's always going to send that 120 hertz signal. And if you combine that with Dolby and DTS or Dolby or DTS through the eARC on the Sonys, then the audio is going to keep dropping out.
And that includes streaming, not just watching Blu-ray discs, right?
As far as I know, I haven't actually tried streaming on my Xbox, but yeah, it should.
Okay. And this kind of goes to the Xbox is not designed to be a Blu-ray player, even though it does play Blu-ray. So I don't know who to blame. Do you blame Sony or Xbox on this, right? Because all the other
Mhm.
players are fine on the Sony. I'd say this is partly Microsoft's fault.
I don't know though because it's the Xbox is fine with LG, Samsung, every other TV. So it's who knows. But that's been a issue even last year. So don't know.
Don't know. And this brings up another point, which is every TV you buy, different brands, just because they have the same features on paper, eARC, HDMI 2.1, 4K 120, right? They're not all equal, not just in implementation, but in compatibility. They may or may not be compatible with the hardware you have in mind. It could be a Blu-ray player, it could be an Xbox, it could be a PS5. So you definitely, when you bring it home, plug everything in and play it with it. If it doesn't work and you can't figure it out, swap it for a different model. I mean, at this point, it's so hard to nail down what the problem is. Because, well, with that, we're leading into Mustafa's comment. I have money, so I want everything on the table, and the A90J doesn't have everything, so it's not my TV. Know what you want, right? If you're looking specifically for working VRR, that's it. No need to apologize. And there's only a couple of brands that do it well enough for most people. And Brad doesn't think Xbox and Sony is compatible. It may not be this year, so that's another thing. It's not. There's nothing stopping for Xbox and Sony from updating their firmware and making themselves compatible. But then ask yourself this: Xbox and Samsung are partners in the whole Series X Xbox Samsung branding package. I assume they're compatible. Has anyone heard any issues between Xbox and Samsung? It would be ironic if they are. I haven't heard anything, but they are supposed to be hardware partners for gaming on the Series X. So maybe that means it's going to be perfect. Can I choose you a model from the price matrix? Yes, I can. I'm going to choose you the 77-inch A80J because I love watching movies. It's a good price at $3,000. But if you're afraid of burn-in, and for $400 less, the Samsung Q90A, it has great anti-reflective properties. I was doing my anti-glare test with the X95J, and the 98 did really well. I thought it reduced the reflection the way I had it angled, at least. So for most people, I think the Q98 is a great TV, especially it's $400 cheaper and you're not hardcore watching in the dark OLEDs at this price. Now, before, when it was above 3,000, and along that theme, if you look at 85-inch, 3,300 for the Q98, I think there's room for it to go even further down on Black Friday, a little bit, maybe at 3,000. So something to keep in mind. And right here, $1,800, 65-inch LG C1. I think it has everything most people need. And with gaming and stuff, either one of these TVs at this price is just phenomenal. So it would be for you, 65-inch, one of these here, or either one, OLED, one of these, this here. This is an amazing deal at 3,300, and there you have it.
So I was mentioning this as well, that Newegg, if you're willing to buy from them, there's really no reason not to. When they have the C1s in stock, they're combining it with good size gift cards and a 3-year warranty. So like the 77 would have a $300 gift card plus a 3-year warranty for $3,000. The 65-inch is $1,800 with a $150 gift card, 3-year warranty. The 48-inch has a $125 gift card, 3-year warranty for $1,300. So just to me, I mean, that's like free money, because I mean, if you want to buy a mount, you want to buy movies, games, whatever, you can get all that on Newegg too. So I look at other stuff too. You don't always have to look at the big stores.
Good point. Newegg does have those gift cards that, I have to say, they're very generous with their gift card promotions. And I think part of it also is their return policy is a bit harsher, though, right?
You cannot return for refund, but you can return if you have a problem for an exchange. And if they are sold out and you need to return, then they do give you a refund.
So keep that in mind, guys. If you return, it better be for a good reason, because you are getting that additional discount. So, can't have it both ways. Best Buy doesn't give you that additional thing, but then you can return for whatever reason. They don't care. Newegg, you got to be very specific. It's got to have an issue, but you get the gift card. And does the Q90 support PS5 3D audio to make it feel like surround? So the answer is no, not yet at least. The Q90 or any TV, unless it specifically supports Sony 360 audio, that is its own format. The TV has to be able to decode that. But just because a TV can decode it, it's a TV. You're not going to get surround. I suggest getting a sound bar that supports 3D audio, whether it's Sony's 360 or whatever, Apple's surround, right? Get a sound bar or some system that actually has discrete speakers. The HT-A9 recently got an update. It does support the 360 audio. So yes, that's one that would support it, but do not rely on your TV to support any kind of these new 360 3D formats. You're not going to feel anything, honestly. It just doesn't work. The TV's in front of you. It's not going to properly bounce anything. It's all hype if the TVs are telling you, hey, you know what, you're going to get 360 with our TV audio. Not possible.
Did you get to the super chat from 324 about the X95J?
Yes. Is it Hyro?
Yep.
This one?
Did you do that one?
Not yet. Thank you. And yeah, okay. Here we go. And of course, if I missed your super chat, please let me know because I'm just running crazy today. It's going to be such a long week for me. I have to get everything done this week for you guys. And next week is the AV Summit. If you guys don't know, I'll remind you guys later, but it's going to be really fun. Okay, Hiro Tejada. Hey, thanks. Welcome back. FOMO, my X95J had a malfunctioning panel. Ouch. I returned it. A90J 77-inch just delivered today. Not as bright, but I'm very happy with the image. So, yeah, I have the X95J right now. It's bright. As bright as the Q90A easily. And the A80J 77-inch, if you're in the dark, though, I don't think you're missing much. And also, many of the scenes, if it's accurate, doesn't need to be as bright, but for sure your highlights and your deep darks, that gives you this wide range. So as long as you're happy with the image, Hyro, and you're going to get used to it, you're going to love it, and then you cannot go back to a non-OLED. But congratulations, the A80J 77-inch is kind of my go-to recommendation for that budget.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, the only thing so far that I've seen that I was thinking if I had an LCD, this would be brighter was watching Dune last night. When it would get to the really big outdoor bright
Wait. Which TV did you watch it on?
The A80J.
A80J, okay. Yep. The 77-inch.
Yep.
Okay. Tell me.
So any of the darker scenes, it looks really good. You know, the little bright highlights, again, look really good. It's just there's a lot of outdoors on these other planets, lots of light, really bright. And it's like, I know if it was an LCD that would be brighter.
Well, you know what I'm excited about is the Z9J. We saw how bright it. Well, we never saw how bright it could get because it was never tested. But I'm excited for the QN900A and the Z9J because we know 8K TVs when they're a year old, sometime in the spring next year, you guys are going to have a great price. If you just need a bright TV, either one, the Q900A, the Z9J, I think it's going to be a phenomenal sale next year. So if you guys are looking for a large but bright TV, because your room is relatively bright, hold off. Don't buy anything this year. Wait until next spring and get the Z9J or Q900A. The Q900A, for sure, is going to drop massively by spring at the various 85, 75-inch sizes. So something to keep in mind, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, Lee, thanks for the super chat. Will PlayStation 5 games look good on the Z9J? Speaking of Z9J, I cannot imagine why it wouldn't look good. Are there any issues with the PS5 and any of the Sony TVs to your mind, Classy? I think it would look great.
The only thing I'm wondering is, does the Z9J let it do 4K 120?
Z9J 4K 120.
I mean, there's the 8K 60 port, but with how weird that TV is when it comes to that stuff,
you know
I don't
what?
know if
no one's ever tested it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then I always tell people PS5, not the Pro, you're normally in 4K 60 anyway, and I believe you're actually dropping down to 1080 120 with some dynamic upscaling to make it look 4K. So it's really hard to say with the PS5. I mean, there's been a lot of complaints about really, is it 4K 120 or is it 120, but the resolution isn't really 4K. Overall, 4K 60 will look great in the Z9J.
Yeah.
But 4K 120, come on, it's a Sony. Let's not push the Sony TVs. You've already accepted it's not a thing. Yes, Pac-Man, I just finished all my X95J versus Q90A comparisons and everything. So I will put it out this week. It'll be X95J, not just the Q90A. I'll compare it to the TCL6 series as well as the U8G because you guys got to have context. But I'll just tell you right now, I do like the X95J a lot, especially in just full screen images where, and I know you and I always disagree on this. If there
I
are
don't think we
not,
did.
what?
I don't think we actually disagree. I think maybe there was a misunderstanding.
Or more priorities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the QN90A, I've said, like, it's going to get darker. It's going to have better blooming control
Yep.
as far as the black bars and stuff. It's just the Sony's going to lift those blacks a little bit so you don't really see the glowing part of the blooming and be more accurate.
You know, I have to say, the QN90A, because both of mine are calibrated. The QN90A was by John Reformato, and the X95J by Dwayne Davis, D-Nice. They actually look so similar in so many scenes. So if we look watching The Greatest Showman, because that's a lot of color saturation and it separates the TVs, there are so many scenes of like, you know what, they're both excellent. They both look great. I would not be able to choose one over the other as, oh, this is better. What does pop out, though, shocking enough to me, is the TCL 6 series in some scenes. Like, wait, where did that come from? Not deeper blacks, brighter. So there are some scenes where it's just like there's that extra HDR, maybe that 1% window the other two didn't have, and they're all maxed out, right? And it doesn't mean that this EOTF curve is accurate. So that's something I have to remind you guys. TCL 6 series, I know once you get to it, let me know, Classy, if they push that EOTF. But out of the box, I have a feeling that thing is pumped up a little bit more than their TVs. So it's not necessarily luminance accurate, but it is going to pop a bit. But the X95J and Q90A, honestly, out of the box, because the X95J is color accurate, and you don't watch a lot of stuff with deep blacks, black bars, you may not be distracted. Since I am, I would choose the Q90A only because of that. But if I watch mostly Netflix, where I might not see it, but then subtitles, sometimes there's a blooming issue. So
Did you try the local dimming on high on the X95J?
yeah, I always have local dimming on high, unless there's an issue with that. Well, actually, you
Okay, well,
tell me.
Dwayne should have put it on medium, accurately wise, it would be on medium. But if you're watching with black bars or subtitles, putting it on high really helps.
I normally check my local dimming. I do put it on high, but you're right. I think I came out with medium only because I want to make sure it's a fair comparison that Sony has its best local dimming. When I'm testing blacks, I do put it on high for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's odd that like the Samsung I measured 1800 nits versus the Sony at just over 1000, but it's like Samsung doesn't use it because it's trying to do so many things at once.
So this is, let's talk about this one more time for everyone. Ratings does a great job measuring patterns, and I know Ratings knows this. That's why they have their real scene. But I have a bad feeling that even their real scene does not reflect real movies, right?
Yep.
In real movies, movies like Greatest Showman, where there is good HDR that could go close to 1,000 nits, in those scenes where, well, it shouldn't be brighter, by the way. Actually, it should be it should be correct. If it's tone mapped, if both TVs can accurately reflect the luminance, it should be the same. But the Samsung doesn't necessarily get brighter than the Sony, even in movies like Mad Max, because they do something funny in their patterns to artificially pump it up. So we'll have new patterns from Spears and Munsell at the end of the year that will make sure that TVs cannot game the system and give us kind of falsely bright images or measures when it shouldn't be. Because like stimulus checks and stuff, that doesn't help you when it comes to real content. It's not a good reflection.
Yep.
All right, let's go through here. Here's a great point, Mustafa. As much as bright as LCD TVs can get in a bright room, all the brightness goes against it when you turn off the lights. Yeah, when you turn off the lights, you end up putting everything down to their most accurate modes because they could all handle it, because it really is too bright. So the point is, they did a lot of research on contrast. Contrast once you've reached maximum comfortable contrast, any more brightness becomes fatiguing, and you end up adjusting everything back to your comfort level again. So you have to remember brightness is balanced by comfort, eye comfort. So sometimes bright HDR images are fun for 5 minutes, but if you're watching a 2 hour movies and it's getting bright all the time, you're going to get eye fatigue. So that's why they say, well, is this accurate or not? Accurate means that the movie color grader, they don't want you to have eye fatigue. They're making it in a certain way, and your TV matches it, but you can pump it beyond what it's supposed to be, and it looks great, but now you're going to suffer from eye fatigue. So you don't want it too bright in a dark room either. That brightness is only going to be taken advantage of in a bright room where you have to get through the light, but then you lose a lot of color accuracy to do that as well. So there's always that compromise. That's why we recommend watch your TVs, all your great TVs, in a dim room, and they end up looking very close, actually.
Yeah, and if you look at the HDR curve when it's set accurately, 70 something percent of the image is supposed to be in the SDR range. It's only the very high end that shoots up for the highlights.
Now, isn't that crazy? 70% of the image is around 100 nits. So somewhere between 100 and 200 nits, right? Is 70% of your image that you're enjoying. The highlights are way over there, which is that pop that we want, and of course the deep blacks are on the other side, but that's not most of the image. Hey, X3 Fifth Man Tube, thanks for the super chat. At same price, 65-inch Q90A or the 75-inch X90J at 9 feet away. 9 feet is not close, so let me see here. Let's pull this up. Same price. So you're in England, and you guys are at around 2,000 for the 60. Oh, that's kind of similar to us, 1,900. Okay, so I don't know. That this Q98 is so, to me, the image quality is so much better than the X90J because of the blooming issues in the X90J, and it's kind of distracting. And I do watch a lot of black bars. Because I watch a lot of black bars, I would still go with a slightly smaller 65-inch Q90A, but if you watch mostly full field where there's not a lot of that blooming at risk, you don't watch content where there's bright images in a dark scene, then the 7590 X90J is fine. So you have to pay attention. What's your content? Personally, I would go with the 65-inch Q90A because of the content I watch. But what about you, Classy? This is actually a pretty good question because that size is not bad.
Yeah, I would say as much as I would usually go for size, I think there's enough there to go for the Samsung.
Agreed. So, and you will like the Samsung's. So let's talk about the intangibles. The Samsung looks like a premium TV. The remote is solar powered. Overall, you have a flagship TV. So it's not just, oh, it's only 65-inch. You feel like you paid good money for a good TV. X90J, it just feels like a mid-tier TV to me. Hey, welcome on board, buddy.
Hey, what's
Came
up?
in just in time to answer this question. So,
Oh
what
yeah.
would you choose, KG? Same price, the 65-inch Samsung Q90A or the 75-inch X90J? He's sitting 9 feet away.
Ah man, this is tough because at 9 feet away, that's kind of a little bit too far in my perspective for a 65 inch. So I'm just like, this is a tough one for me. I think I would probably go with the 75-inch X90J just for the size because at that viewing distance, I think that 75 is perfect for that. You could probably get away with the 65-inch if you're just caring about quality over the size. It's close though. It's close.
Yeah, I mean, I spent 5 years watching my KS 8000 65-inch from around 8 feet away. So that's why it's like
Yeah.
after. I mean, I've had the X90J a few times, put a lot of time into it, and it's one of the probably hardest TVs to decide on because sometimes it looks really good, and then other times it looks mid range, and when it's off, it looks mid range.
Yeah.
So it's and if you are even just a half a seat on the couch to the side with the X90J, it starts to fall apart. So if
Right.
viewing angles matter at all, definitely go for the
That,
Samsung.
that is a good point as well. Definitely. Yeah, yeah.
And the
And
thing about that is, you have to kind of weigh just how much quality matters to you over size, because at the end of the day, there's no doubt about it, the QN90A is just like far and away a better TV, but you're gonna be sacrificing some things to go to 75 inch, but you probably might like it more immersive, like it's more immersive to you. It's it's definitely a
He-
tough decision. I thought about it myself because I honestly thought about, at the price of the X90J and some of these other 75-inch TVs, if they get to that lower point, like when is it that decision to replace the 65-inch Q90T with it? Is it gonna, am I gonna be like really missing the quality and the brightness levels? Because the brightness level is, it's a huge difference between the X90J and the QN90A.
Yeah, he just followed up too. He's PS5 gaming and Prime streaming, so that means he'd get HDR10 plus with the Samsung.
Oh, you gotta go with the
Mm.
65 Q90A.
And
because
for gaming,
so tough,
I would
yeah.
give it, because I mean Sony doesn't have VRR on the PS5 now, but they will at some point.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I assume it's compatible with all the TVs, right? Hey, David, I just wanted to address this real quick. 83-inch close to G1. If you're talking about a 77-inch G1, if the C1 is what you're talking about, the fact that it's larger is going to make it look brighter anyway, and it doesn't mean that the C1 isn't going to be as bright as a G1 if it was an 83-inch. So you're going to always feel that the 83-inch is brighter than the 77-inch, just perceptually larger, same luminance per pixel. It's just going to feel brighter. Hopefully that helps there.
Yeah, the only
And
difference really that you're gonna have is in high APL screen. Like if it was a 77 G1 versus the 83 C1, high APL the G1 would get brighter, but everything else you wouldn't be able to tell a difference.
that's a good
Yeah.
point. That's a good point. Low to high,
So,
bias lighting helps with eye fatigue quite a bit. Yes, and you know how?
mm,
It kind of makes everything a little bit brighter. So your eyes shrinks a little bit, but then the deep blacks is not as deep anymore, right? So you're kind of like, oh, wait a minute. So yeah, there's always a give and take. But if you're going to use biased lighting, remember your walls need to be a certain color, right? That Kodak gray, and your biased lighting should be the special temperature cinema light, the biased lighting kit that is accurate. Otherwise, it's kind of pointless, and you might still have eye fatigue anyway if it's that bright fluorescent pink
mm.
color you're using. So
You
if you're
could
going to use biased lighting, go ahead.
yeah, you could also get one of those temperature controlled lighting systems too. Like I have a LifeX lighting strip where that does like RGB and does like multiple colors and stuff. It's really cool, but it also has a bias lighting setting, and it seems to be pretty accurate.
And in my opinion, if you're spending $1,000 or more on the TV, spend the $70 on a media light.
Hmm. Yes, agreed. I do like their media light, and that's all they do. They serve the Hollywood media industry, reference monitors. They all buy it from the same place. Great little kit.
Hmm.
Cyber GT. Ooh, thanks for the super chat. Sony A80J. Here we go. Prices for our friends in England. Thank you, Cyber GT, for doing the research and giving me a super chat for the pleasure. Sony A80J UK, 3,599 including tax. SE, 43,990 kroner. USA 3,100, ES Euro 33,149 pounds euros. Price are different across international Europe for Black Friday and Amazon change stores locations. So this is interesting. I'm wondering if these prices will continue to just fluctuate as we get closer to Black Friday, because we have an official Black Friday. It's the Friday following Thanksgiving, but the rest of the world, any day can be Black Friday for them, right?
Hmm.
So thank you for that, Cyber GT. Yeah, those of you outside the US, it looks like the US really has a good deal. I mean, I'm looking
Yeah.
at this 3,100, and let's just say 3,000, right? 3,600
Yeah.
pounds. Dang.
I wanna add something. Did you notice that like a lot of those TVs went up in price already? Like just recently? So like I think the 80J went back up, right? And the C1 went
Yeah, I
back
saw
up.
them kind of
Yeah.
bouncing
They're
a
getting
little bit of
they're
that.
positioning, because I think what we're gonna see is you're gonna see those prices that we saw earlier as the Black Friday prices. I really think that's what we're gonna see.
Yeah.
And then like I mentioned with the C1 55-inch, that's gonna be $1,299. And I believe the 83-inch is gonna be 5,500, something like that.
I think it's going to go much lower.
You think so?
I think it will go low. Yeah.
The 83
I,
C1, it has room to drop a lot. I think it's going to go to 5, maybe less.
Well, speaking of just big, awesome TVs, thank you for that reminder. So here we have the Well, I don't even have it here. The X900A. There we go. 7500. It was 7500, right? Look at that. It's 5500.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question is same
Yeah.
price as the C1. We talked about this last week. What are your opinions when it's the same price? I know you like the Q900A, so I want to hear what you would choose now given the same price and you were to choose between the two.
I've been saying like the last week or so that if I didn't have the A90J right now, the QN900A has dropped enough, and after seeing it at the shootout, that's what I would have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's
I would say the same thing. Like even without seeing the Q900A, I think that you're just getting a better TV over the C1 in my opinion, because not only are you gonna get the 4K TV, but you're gonna get everything that goes into their 8K TV, which we know that Samsung really kind of goes all out on their 8K TVs at the top end as much as they can, and you get that infinity bezel, which is sick. Um,
Yep,
so
yep.
like I think that's something you have to really consider as well.
It is sick.
And,
Yeah.
and when we were talking earlier about ratings and the brightness measurements, like we all know they measured the 90A brighter, but we saw it. The 900A is way brighter.
Yeah, that's more of that trickery from Samsung. And before we jump to this next super chat, thank you, Shango. Reminder, everyone, there's almost 200 of you and only a few likes. Please click like so that we can get this out there, get more people here to get great advice from our friends here today, Classy and KG. Shango, thanks for the super chat. Mr. FOMO, I've watched your reviews on the HT-A9 and I appreciate and thank you for them. You're welcome. You are a trusted source for me. Did you experience speaker dropping out or having to do a recalibration? So only when, so let me talk about speaker dropouts because this is important. I got dropouts on certain movies that were Atmos and I had it in DTSX. If I brought it into either the sound mode, just the default sound mode, or Dolby Speaker Virtual, the dropouts were gone. And that was very specific to Mission Impossible Fallout. But this was not a problem on other movies that had Atmos, like Ready Player One. So I believe it's a format issue as well. If you're in the Sony default sound mode and it's neither virtual or the other one, the DTSX, you shouldn't have any dropouts. But oh, hey, speaking of which, do you guys know this? This is very interesting.
So
The X95J is only a center channel when the HT-A9 is set in their default sound mode. But if I go into Dolby Virtual or DTS Neural X, the center channel's off. It's as if it's not even being used. So if you guys have an X95J, and I think this applies to probably all of the Sony TVs as a center channel, if you want to use it as a center channel, definitely enable the sound mode rather than either the DTS Virtual or the DTS-X. Additionally, the X95J as a center, to me, is better. I have the measurements, and I'm going to put that in my update for the X95J review. And the reason is this. You're getting a lot more clarity in the highs than you would without it. So I use Ready Player One in that I love the opening scene with all the crashes and stuff. The high pitch tingle of the coins and the crashes with the TV as your center, you hear a little bit more of it. Even when the guy's shifting gears and you can hear the gear grind. With the X95J, I'm like, wow, that's like grinding gears. And without it, it's very subdued. Now, the question is, which one is right? So that I don't know.
right.
So I have an issue with that, but I definitely heard an obvious difference. So, but you guys, it doesn't make it worse. You just turn it off, but it definitely adds more high content. And the center is not trying to do more than what it's capable of. So I think it's maybe above 500 hertz even, or even higher, maybe above 1,000 hertz. So yeah, something to keep in mind. And go ahead.
Did you try the 65-inch A90J versus the X95J to see which sounded better?
Not yet, but I will. So is it next week? Oh my God, it's not until November. Because right now my A90J is on the wall right now, and the X95J is actually off the wall on my mount. And before Brandon comes to install my 83-inch A90, I have to take that down. So when I take it down, then I'll have it, and then at that point I'll be able to compare it much later. But Yeah, it's interesting. I see and remember, guys, Sony is constantly updating its firmware. So a lot of the reviews early about how the X95J sounds as a center or not may change over the next few months because I've already updated my firmware twice since I got it. So that's just something to keep in mind. But definitely the A9 does use the center channel to great effect for just sound effects. And like when he's whispering, you could hear his whispers clearly. So dialogue improvement for me definitely was better with the X95J as the center. But overall sound effects like ambient, surround, nothing's changed. It's just centered right there where a few of the frequencies are a bit lifted. So I imagine the dialogue focus would be better if you guys need that. Lots of people are experiencing dropouts. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think Sony needs to educate people on, well, first of all, where are the dropouts? So right now I've been exclusively using the Blu-ray disc. I'm going to start watching on the internal apps to see. So I've done the HDMI through the TV and then eARC out to it, and it appears to work fine. Now I'm going eARC direct to the A9, and so far on it, it appears to work fine. But I've been using the Sony or the Panasonic UB820 Blu-ray. I'm going to switch to the Revon, and we'll try that, and we'll see what happens as well. There's so many hardware options.
Yeah. Do you guys notice? I've like feel like whenever I watch on any sort of external sound device, whether it be a sound bar or anything else, like just in the middle of a movie, just like randomly, it'll just be like a single dropout, but it's only like at one point during the movie.
Are you talking about a soundbar dropout or the whole?
Yeah, it'll just be silent for like a good second, and then I'm like, "What's with that?"
On streaming or on a disc?
It'll be on streaming. Yeah.
Which TV?
It just doesn't matter what TV I tried it on. I just
Because for
always
me,
got
it
that.
happened on my Samsung Q900 TS consistently
Hmm.
through eARC. If I disabled eARC and it was just regular ARC, not lossless, no dropouts.
Okay.
Netflix with the lossless through eARC, I consistently get dropouts in The Witcher in the exact same scene to my soundbar. So definitely the Samsung is unable to decode whatever it is in that specific scene in eARC or in higher lossless mode, but when I drop to ARC, no problem.
Yeah.
So try that and see if you still get it through regular ARC. Like disable the E part, just
Okay.
basic ARC, and see if it helps. And if it does help, then it's a format read problem. They're unable to read that format.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey, Matthew, thank you for the super chat. Hey, all, keep up the great work. Thanks, we will. Do you think more TV manufacturers will adopt Dolby Vision gaming modes next year like LG has? This is hard.
Yeah, it's tough.
Dolby Vision gaming is hard. I'm going to defer to Classy and KG because I know you guys have been talking about it. Do you think it's worth? Okay, first of all, is it hard to implement this year? And do you think more TVs or companies are going to try to next year?
I guess I'll start. I don't think it's hard. I think they just need to put the effort into doing it. They gotta want to do it. For the most part, it seems like it would be an easy thing to do. They just have to figure out a way to get ALLM working correctly. Because auto low latency mode, what it's designed to do is it's supposed to give you the lowest latency possible in whatever mode you're in. So it's supposed to detect either that it's in Dolby Vision and still give you a game mode that way, but it's not working that way. So the only functioning Dolby Vision gaming that's low latency, and I have to specify that that's low latency, seems to be LG and nothing else. I can't comment on what's overseas in the brands that we don't have, but for the most part, there's no other low latency gaming that's working on any other TV for Dolby Vision.
Yeah, I'm sure more will come out with the modes because it's something people are asking for. But in its current state, it's hard to say because we don't have any games that were really natively from the ground up made for it. A couple have had a little bit of support, but it still hasn't really made any changes. And overall, right now, Dolby Vision gaming on LG is worse than HDR10. So I would just keep your TV in HDR10 when playing. But we'll just have to see what happens in the next year or two.
Hey, Classy, can you be specific? Dolby Vision gaming is worse than HDR10. What's worse? Is the image quality? Is it the latency? What was the issue
The
you had?
posterization.
Posterization.
The color banding in the skies.
Okay, so if you guys don't know, posterization is like color banding the skies. You have the bars of color, right? It's like
Yeah.
8-bit, right? It doesn't look like it should be 10-bit or whatnot, or
Yeah.
macro blocking, right? Pixelization. Now, here's the thing that I'm thinking.
And
Is it-
also on the
Go ahead.
LGs, I've in some cases it's kind of weird, but sometimes near black seems more crushed with the Dolby Vision.
Yeah, and it's important to note that with the posterization, there's no way to fix it right now because the gradient smoothing out, it doesn't work on LG TVs in game mode. So that's kind of an issue. And then also when you're in 120 hertz, it gets worse than
Yes.
when you're in 60 hertz. So
So let's
something to
address
also
this real
note.
quick. You guys have to all understand every layer of image feature, whether it's Dolby Vision, whether it's HDR, whether it's VRR, every layer is a processing layer. And as you stack those layers up, you're either going to lose latency where the latency starts to go up, but if you want to press the latency down, then something else is going to get worse. So if LG is focusing on low latency, guess what? Posterization. Oh, wait, we need more processing to remove the posterization. Latency goes up. You can't, I mean, there's only so much you can do currently. Now, obviously, in the future, if the chips are fast enough and powerful enough, maybe all this would be solved. But right now, and I think in the near future, if you're layering on what 4K 120, that stop very hard.
Yeah.
Then you have VRR. Then you have low latency, and then you add on top of that HDR. I haven't even put on HDR yet, right? HDR requires tone mapping, and now you have Dolby Vision HDR, which is dynamic. You know, guys,
Well,
I don't think we're going to solve this next year
Yeah.
if you layer all those features on. And
So-
that's on OLED. It's going
Yeah,
to be
I think-
worse on the non-OLED.
I think it's important to note that like right now it's not dynamic. It's pretty much just HDR in a
Can you
a
imagine?
Dolby Vision container. So it's like it's not working the way you would hope Dolby Vision gaming works because technically we don't have anything that is native, and that's the thing that's sort of misleading with the whole Xbox Dolby Vision has Dolby Vision campaign that they push at Microsoft now. It's like you don't really know what is going to be native and what's not.
And like
there
even
it is.
Halo Infinite, they're claiming as being like the first game for Dolby Vision that's made in it, except each of these betas has not been. So I'm not even expecting that to really have any difference. So I think it's going to be quite a while before we really have things created for Dolby Vision.
Agreed. And hey, thanks, my viewers, for catching it. If I don't catch and I miss a super chat, no one else does. If you guys catch it, just shout it out. We have such patient viewers. Sometimes I don't catch it. I never ask their question. Hey, John, sorry for the late super chat. Do you expect Sony VRR firmware update to be more successful than the A80J, A90J? For content, 75% movies, 25% PS5, Xbox Series X, and almost considering waiting for 2022 models if VRR will be ironed out. So I'm going to answer first only because you guys have more opinions than I do, and I want you guys to talk. But I'll tell you this. I don't believe the VRR firmware will be ironed out for the A80J or the A90J. The reasons will be plentiful, but I just don't think it will be. Do not get the A80 or A90 if you are serious about your PS5 or your Xbox, actually. If you're serious about getting everything out of your Xbox Series X, you're going to be heartbroken with the A80J, A90J. Now, should you wait until 2022, Sony's? I don't think you should if you want VRR. Again, we'll enter the reasons at a future date, but that's my opinion. What are your thoughts on Sony VRR, A80J, A90J? And what about next year, guys? What do you think?
All right, so let's say they work out some of the kinks. The problem is it's still going to be 60 hertz, and I would rather be at 120 with no VRR than at 60 with. So I just at this point just assume if you buy a Sony TV, just ignore the fact if it has VRR or not. And then for gaming, it even on the PS5, it's still more dependent on the games you play. If you play games that have a lot of HUDs, if you play a lot of Call of Duty, Battlefield, racing games, things like that, then the A80 and the A90 are going to be dimming. So I would just say get the C1 or G1 in that case.
Yep. KG, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I mean, like, if you think about what VRR is going to do for Sony TVs right now, it doesn't seem very promising, right? Everything that we're hearing so far with the X900H has been very disappointing, and I mean, it's kind of something I expected personally, honestly. Like, you don't
We all
go
did.
that long without giving VRR, and there's a reason for it. There's something that they're not telling you that they're struggling with, and they're just trying to find, ways around it to try to give you the best experience possible. But I don't know like how good it can be. And Classy, were you saying that it's only at 60 hertz for the 900H, or is that what?
The way that it's designed, you have to change the HDMI port to enhanced or Dolby Vision.
Yeah.
That's what they did, is they added a fourth
Oh,
option for VRR, which means you pick that, you're giving up 120 and you're giving up Dolby, and then you have to go into the settings and change if you want that. It's just a mess.
yeah. So okay, I would say that if that's true for the OLEDs as well, and VRR is any bit important to you, you can't consider a Sony TV. Like, you just can't. If VRR is any bit important to you. Now that said, a lot of people can get away without VR. You probably be fine gaming without VR. A lot of people will. In A80J, A90J, beautiful TVs for gaming, and I stand by that. That they're great gaming TVs, especially if you have a Nintendo Switch. Amazing upscaling. But if VR is important to you on the Xbox, you can't consider it.
Can't consider it.
And it's not Sony as a whole. Like, I still recommend the X90 and X95J for gaming. You're going to get the XR processor, the good upscaling, and all of that, and it's going to be so much brighter.
So that's something, John, and let's conclude that comment, because I think these are great commentary on what's important to you. So I know you say 25% gaming, but how much of that gaming is image quality and latency? Is that enough? If image quality and latency is enough, throughout VRR and just focus on good image quality and latency on the OLEDs. And we don't know how it's going to be on the OLED, by the way. So if we throw VRR out the window, what are your guys' thoughts about just 4K 120 low latency gaming in game mode on the OLEDs? Let's just throw out VRR.
Yeah, then it's just my main reservation at that point is if you're going to be bothered by the dimming, if you're going to notice it, if the game you're playing has HUDs. Like, my kids are playing Astro or Sackboy, no HUD. We're playing It Takes Two, no HUD. It's great. It looks great. As soon as there's something with a HUD, then it's dimming down, and it bothers me a lot. It drives me crazy. It also, like, a lot of games have dynamic times of day or dynamic weather, and that can sometimes mask it because maybe the game's getting darker, and then you're not noticing it, or you're thinking that that's what it is. But there's a lot of games where it's noticeable to a lot of people, but some people still don't really believe it either. So that's my next main video. Now that I have the camera, I'm actually going to have A80 next to the C1 and the meter out and go through like 10 different games and showing all the dimming.
You guys will love it. Yeah.
like,
I'm looking forward to that.
So Classy is really bothered by this. I'm not.
No, what is it? What is it? Classy's bothered by the dimming.
The dimming.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
And
not.
not just
It's-
not you. Brian,
yeah.
Whisper Status, also doesn't notice it. It's one of those
Right.
things we talked about. People are sensitive, some aren't. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think it's because of this. It's when you see it, you really got to be paying attention to it, or it's just got to be something that you've noticed before, and it's just automatically a pet peeve, right? You see something, and you're automatically going to be looking for it, and I think that's just the way our brains work. But like in the aspect of it won't be noticeable for most people, I say because it gradually happens, right? It's not something that is just a quick dip. It doesn't go from like 100 to like 50% dimming. It slowly dims down, and your eyes kind of adjust to it. And it's the same way with like if you ever use an OLED for a monitor. Sometimes you don't even notice that your monitor got all the way down to 20% on brightness level. So it's like you don't notice it until you like wiggle the tabs on your computer screen,
Right.
and you're like, oh,
Right.
there's the brightness is back. I didn't even
Right.
realize it. So it's in that retrospect, that's how it is, because there's going to be a lot of instances where you're just probably not going to notice it, and I think most people won't notice it.
Agreed.
But if you do notice it, it might make you mad. So that's something that I always want to bring out there. Is like, because Classy has a great opinion on it, I think, and his opinion is valid, and I seen it live on his stream when it happened. We pointed it out. We're like, yeah, it definitely dimmed. So
I definitely want to see that happen for the A80J or the A80 and the C1, so you guys can see the difference of the dimming or whatever it happening. And also, but it'll be hard because you're gonna have to get some kind of a, well, I guess a 4K 60 splitter, because the whole point is just to compare the dimming, not performance, right?
Mhm.
But this kind of takes us to a whole different point.
Yeah.
We know the LG is going to be a great OLED gaming TV. So the 97-inch LG is coming out next year, and it's going to be the ultimate gamer's TV. And obviously, it's going to be expensive. I know it'll be above 10,000. So let's just say that, right? Well, no, I don't know, but I predict it's got to be above 10,000. I think it's going to be between 15 and 20, depending on who's putting out what. But that's my guess. It may be above 20, but I'm thinking it's going to try to compete with the $10,000 to $15,000 LCDs. So let's just say it's in the ballpark of 15 to 20. What are your thoughts of the 97-inch OLED? Because we all knew that the Sony at 20,000, that's just crazy talk. It should be an OLED for that much. Well, now we have an OLED for close, maybe that much, right?
Yeah, my thought on this was that they're just going to cancel out the 8K 77-inch. They're going to drop the 88 to 20 grand, make this 8K for 30 grand, and it's or maybe they drop the 88 to 15, and this is going to be 25, somewhere between 20 and 30. And I think it's not targeting the large LCDs. I think it's targeting the high-end JVC projectors and things like that.
That's another good point. It's going after the $20,000/ $15,000, $30,000 high-end Sony JVCs. Now, this is for all of you. If you have a 77-inch, you guys all know in 4 years, this will be under $10,000. We all are pretty confident of that prediction because LG is seeing the future. It's all large, and they're upping production across the board for 77, 83, and now 97. In 4 years, you're not going to find a 55-inch OLED. It'll be like 65 and up with the occasional small one. Like everything else is getting larger. So just hang on tight. You know, don't upgrade yet if you want a big TV. This is exciting. I
don't know how you guys are able to talk about and almost afford $40,000 TVs, but if it's like NFTs and crypto, you guys gotta get me schooled up on this or something, because I must be doing something wrong.
Hey, that's not to say we're gonna buy it, but I'm predicting it'll be under 10 grand. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I think it's gonna
Under
be like
10
40.
grand.
I think it's gonna be like 40,000 8K.
You think 40? And you might be right. You know,
I think it's
it'll be
8K
the
also.
only one out there. I don't think it's 8K though. So
I think it'd be weird to not put it in 8K.
I think it would steal the sales of the Z series if it was.
There you go. I think they're going for size because they're competing with 4K projectors and whatever. I think. Well, let's talk about image quality. So let's just say it's affordable, right? Let's say it's 15 to 20, whatever, and then in 2 years it's under 10. Is 100-inch 4K? Is that good enough? Do you need 8K at 100 inches? Now we're pushing size, but you're still about 10 feet away. Are you guys going to consider a 4K 100-inch, or would you just say, I'm going to wait for 8K now?
I mean, I used to have a 120-inch projector at 1080p and thought it looked sharp with a Darby.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm fine with 4K, but I honestly believe it's going to be 8K, and it's going to be their new top tier.
It started. Look, you see this?
Yep, $5 grand, like I was thinking.
That's what I meant. Guys. I meant $5 grand, not 5,500. Yeah, I seen this price already. Yeah.
It is. Is it how old is that?
So this is the same leak that came out with the 1299 C1.
Okay, so it's still
55
inch. 5,000. Okay. Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks, Rodlow, for that super chat. And again, this is not Black Friday yet. Black Friday is going to be a month from October 27.
This is probably Black Friday pricing, though.
You guys think so? Yeah. I really don't. At this point, anything's possible. I mean, I'm so surprised by the prices right now. Oh, and before we get to the super chat, quick reminder to click like, and I'm going to end soon because isn't someone going to have a super chat or a live stream after this? KG, you going to have a live stream after this still?
Yeah. We're still going to have our 10K live stream right after this. I'll put it up.
Let me celebrate you now because I would love to join you, but I got to go to a event, a dinner after this. So I'm going to celebrate you after the super chat. Hey, thanks, Ryan, for the super chat. Love Sony accuracy. Yes. Can you adjust Q90A or Q900A to look like a Sony? Very close. If yes, can I do that through TV settings? Or now okay, so I'm going to let Classy answer this one, but you do need a pro to calibrate, generally speaking. But how close can we get a Samsung to the Sony? Because you were at the shootout with me. What do you think?
In SDR, you can get basic settings gets fairly close. But because there's no option to turn off dynamic tone mapping when you're in HDR, then it would need a calibration in order to track properly.
And there you go. And now, but that HDR, we're talking the brightness is not calibrated as well as the Sony, but what about the color? It's very similar.
Samsung's colors are actually pretty good. Blue is their most inaccurate, but even that is still under threes ish. So
it's not bad.
It's pretty good.
So that's it, Ryan. So that the color accuracy, you're close, you're there. It really is the brightness accuracy. So if you want it not to be so much pop, Sony is the way. And this is even after calibration, they can't get it exact. However, I do like that pop. So you have to consider what your preferences are as well. But the Q90A, and this applied to my Q90R as well, Samsung does need a little bit of love when it comes to calibration because it's meant to be their research shows that at default setting, people like this. And if you are most people, then you probably won't complain. But if you are used to more accurate color settings, you're not going to like it. But how about, you're out of the box, KG, right? You've seen the Samsung, you don't calibrate.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the Samsung compared to the Sonys that you've seen?
Color-wise?
Yeah, color-wise.
I definitely think that the movie mode is better on the Sony. For game mode, it's pretty decent. I thought the Q90A was one of the more accurate looking out of the box compared to the Q90T. Q90T definitely needs a lot of work. And then for the Q90A though, it was fantastic on the color. But the A90J was the best that I've seen out of the box, and the 80J was pretty good as well.
And I think overall, let's not just Samsung, but you guys have seen the TCL. Well, almost you, but out of the box, I thought the TCL actually looked pretty good. If you put it in warm mode, I had the accurate TV next to it, and next to each other, I was able to bring the TCL without going to calibration very close. We're like, you know what? This is not bad. TCL, Hisense, generally speaking, they've done a lot better in the last 2 years, getting their TVs out of the box pretty good than the rest. Okay, guys, just a reminder, we're all going to head over to KG. Well, not we, but you all are going to head over to KG to celebrate his 10,000. And as soon as he gets back, we'll wish him a happy 10,000. And
Cyborg
there you go.
I had to fix my light.
You missed.
My light went out, so I was like, gotta fix that.
Oh, did I miss another super chat, Cassie?
Yeah, Cyborg GT.
Awesome. Cyborg, you're a beast, man. All right, go up, up, up. There you go. Okay. And after this, we're going to wrap up in 5 minutes. If you have any super chats, hold on to it. Bring it to Classy's channel, and they'll answer your questions. Cyber GT.
My channel.
Thank you. Yes. KG's channel.
Here, can I link it? I'll link it in chat.
Yeah. Link it. Or send it to me private, because I don't know if you're able to link it, but put it in my private and then I'll put it out for you. Okay. Cyber GT, would you choose a TV OLED with gaming features or a PC monitor OLED with TV tuner card for gaming? Well, if I'm a gamer, absolutely that latter. So this is me. But that's a second TV. It's more expensive, but absolutely. I get a 43-inch OLED built for gaming. But it's not a TV though. See, this is the thing. You have to choose your poison. It would be a dedicated gaming system, OLED, period, right? But my TV is my TV, and I would game on it for fun, Switch, PS5, whatever. And then the PC monitor OLED is truly meant for TV. So I wouldn't have a tuner card at all. I just have a dedicated gaming system designed to work on that TV/monitor. But that's me. What are your thoughts about getting a gaming TV feature or getting a TV OLED with gaming features or PC monitor OLED with a tuner card?
I think the 48C1 is the best option because the monitors are more expensive and they aren't as bright. The only reason that I can see to get one of those really is if you have to have DisplayPort. But if you have one of the RTX 3000 series or AMD 6000 series cards that has HDMI 2.1, then I would just go for the C1 48-inch or next year the 42.
All right.
Yeah, I echo that statement. You can get a 48-inch C1 on that October 27th for $10.99. It's just a good deal. That's where I would go.
Okay, so let's spend the next few minutes celebrating KG's accomplishment. KG, where are you now? What?
Uh,
How many thousands do you have
So
exactly?
I hit 10K. I don't know exactly what I got. I think it's like 10,380
All
right
right. Well,
now. Something like
congratulations,
that.
my friend. So
Thank
everyone,
you.
congratulate KG. Don't forget to click like here. Then go over there and click like. I just met you a few months ago, so it's cool having
Yeah,
you
that's pretty
guys
cool, man.
on. And well, Classy, how far away from your next milestone? What are you waiting for?
I think I'm at like 6.5, something like that.
Oh, you're almost there. You guys are superstars in the making. So thank you
Thanks, man.
everyone for showing up. And let me see if there's anything I missed. God, there's just so much I missed. Oh, here we go. I missed $50,000. You forgot to super chat that, Mustafa. That's all I wanted to say. Okay, everyone. Until next time, let's pass the remote, head over to KG's channel, and I'll see y'all. Thanks for coming, KG and